In a quiet little village, nestled between green hills and whispering pines, lived an old man named Thomas and his loyal dog, Rusty. Their story is a powerful reminder of love, loyalty, and the healing power of kindness. Thomas had found Rusty on a cold winter's night, a shivering pup abandoned near the edge of the forest. He took him in, wrapped him in a blanket, and shared his meager supper. From that moment on, the two were inseparable. They lived in a small wooden cottage where Rusty became the family Thomas no longer had, his constant shadow, his reason to smile each morning. Every dawn, they'd walk the dirt path to the village. Thomas with his cane tapping gently on the stones, and Rusty trotting proudly beside him, his tail wagging, eyes shining with pure love. They were a familiar, heartwarming sight. The children would wave, and Thomas would offer them apples, while Rusty sat politely, waiting for a gentle pat on the head. But time, as it always does, moved on. Thomas grew frail. His steps slowed, and some mornings he struggled to leave his bed. Through it all, Rusty was there, laying his head on the old man's knee, a silent, comforting presence, a reminder that he was not alone. One cold autumn morning, when the mist hung heavy over the hills, Thomas passed away peacefully in his sleep, his hand resting gently on Rusty's fur. The villagers found them like that, the old man still and silent, and Rusty whining softly, nudging his master's hand, desperately trying to wake him. When they buried Thomas on the hill behind the church, Rusty followed the coffin, his heart heavy. He refused to leave the grave. As the sun set and the wind ruffled his brown fur, he stayed. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Rain soaked him, snow covered him. But Rusty remained, a steadfast guardian at his master's eternal resting place. The villagers tried to coax him away, but he always found his way back, curling up beside the grave each night. It became a local legend, the story of the dog who never left his master's side. Then one day, a young boy named Eli wandered up the hill. He was a kind-hearted boy of 10, with bright eyes and a loaf of bread. He'd heard about the dog at the grave, and his curiosity led him there. He found Rusty, thin and tired, his ribs showing, his eyes filled with a profound sadness. "Hey there, boy," Eli said softly, tearing off a piece of bread. "You hungry?" Rusty lifted his head but didn't move. Slowly the boy placed the bread on the ground and stepped back. Rusty sniffed it, hesitated, then took a cautious bite. The next day, Eli came back with leftover stew and a small blanket. He returned the day after that, and the day after that. He would sit near the grave and talk softly to Rusty, telling him about his day, about school, about the stars. At first, Rusty only listened. But then, one evening, as the sun painted the sky in gold and crimson, Rusty walked closer and rested his head on the boy's knee. A connection was formed. From that day on, they were never apart. Eli visited every day after school. Slowly but surely, Rusty began to wag his tail again. His fur grew soft, and a little light returned to his weary eyes. The villagers would smile, seeing the boy and the dog walking the same path Thomas once did. Eli understood that the grave was sacred to Rusty, and he never tried to take him away from it completely. But with time, Rusty began to follow Eli home at night, sleeping by his door before they returned to the grave together each morning. Years passed. Eli grew into a young man, and Rusty grew old beside him. The cold winter nights were no longer spent alone on the hill. Rusty had a warm hearth, gentle hands to feed him, and a heart that loved him just as fiercely as Thomas had. And every evening, before the sun would set, Eli and Rusty would walk up the hill together. The boy would kneel by the old grave, placing fresh flowers there. Rusty would lie beside it, closing his eyes, his tail thumping softly on the ground. "Don't worry," Eli would whisper, his hand on Rusty's head. "I'll take care of him now." And though Rusty couldn't speak, the way he sighed and rested his head on Eli's leg said everything. He remembered, he was grateful, and he had finally learned to love again. Thank you so much for watching this story. If it touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that celebrates the incredible bond between humans and animals. We'll see you in the next one.